Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Circling the Rabbit Hole podcast with me, Dr. Claire Kinuthia. As the community continues to grow, I continue to be very thankful and grateful that you continue to support and participate in the conversations that we've been having so far on the matters to do with your sexual, reproductive, and mental health. And I'm very appreciative of the audience that we've grown so far and the fact that you're willing to share your own personal stories along the way. Today's episode, I feel like, is one of my most requested subjects, and that is on contraception, or how we refer to it here commonly as family planning. And I think if I'm not asked about this on a daily basis, either on social media or in clinic, it's one of those things that for some reason we still have a lot of question marks. We still have a bit of stigma associated with it, especially so with younger women. And I'd like for us to start to have those conversations and demystify some of the myths that we've had, especially when it comes to certain types of contraception. So with me as my guests today, I'm really glad to be having young women who are open and honest about having history with contraceptives. They're able to share their journey, and we get to learn from their own experiences. We get to know what is real versus what is not in terms of the myths that we've heard about. And I'm sure any woman in Kenya can talk about myths more than facts when it comes to contraception. So I'm going to let audience, I keep referring to you guys. I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves. So I'll start from my very far right.
Hello, my name is Mary Njambi. I'm a mom of one. I'm single.
Maybe
I'm a Christian.
What do you do for a living as well?
For a living, I'm a waitress. That's what I do for my living.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for making the time to be here and to have such a conversation so openly as well. And then I'll switch over to you.
Hi, my name is Wangui Wanjiru. I'm single, and I do quite a few things. I host events, do gigs at the club. So any social event, you might find me there.
Okay, so you're the fun one. Whereas I feel like you guys do more social interaction, and me, I'm an introvert. So it's a good balance on set today. So I'll kick us off with this conversation. Maybe let's start from the past. Growing up, because one of the gaps we do see as a reality for us growing up in Kenya is we're very limited when it comes to conversations to do with our bodies, conversations around sex and relationships, and any sort of education around anything outside of abstinence, right? So maybe you can give us a bit of history, Njambi, for you. Did you have anyone who talked to you about your body, changes that were coming, what menstruation was, and what that meant for fertility, basically?
Yes. When I was around 14, I talked to my aunt because my body started changing. So I wanted to know, how is it like? What if I can sleep with a man and get pregnant and everything? So that's when I was advised, I was told I can use contraceptives because to avoid those early marriages and everything. Yeah.
Okay, so you had someone to talk to you. And about what age was that?
Around 14 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are your parents present? Did you have any conversations around that with them or siblings or anything like that?
Yes. But I guess my parents were so harsh, so
Right.
I couldn't talk
To them, okay.
Yeah, such topics.
Okay.
Yeah, and then growing up in a Christianity family,
Yeah.
it's so hard to talk to such topics.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't even try.
You didn't try. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about you?
For me, my mom is kind of old school. She's old. She's not that old, but she's old.
Yeah.
Like the age gap between me and her, it's quite wide. So for her to like sit down and tell me all about that, it's toughy. It's a toughie, yeah. But I was lucky to have older cousin, and she used to work for Family Health Options Kenya. And after high school, because we had so many misconceptions regarding contraceptives, I just went to ask her, how do I go about these things? So she enrolled me in the CTRE, that is the curriculum for sexual education and all that.
Right.
That's where I got to know the different kind of contraceptives, how to go about sex, and different myths just surrounding that topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really good that you guys had access very early on, because the standard seems to be that we are limiting information, and especially we have a lot of pushback against CSE, that's Comprehensive Sexuality Education. I'm sure you guys have had the pushback, and there's a lot of resistance about teaching children and young teens and young adults about their sexual and reproductive health. Because I think the main misunderstanding or misgivings that we've had is the misconception that we're teaching them to have sex. And having gone through the program, I'm sure you know. I mean, maybe tell us. Let me not assume. What was your experience with CSE?
It was fun, just to teach the young kids on how to protect themselves regarding, you know, the early pregnancies and the diseases, the sexually transmitted diseases. Yeah, it was fun. It was very eye-opening and educative. I loved the experience, and it has helped me throughout my campus life, because you know, campus is
Yeah.
kind of crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about school or church groups, youth groups? Did you have any access to any information through those systems? Either of you. Everyone is smiling at me cheekily. Was there any access to information outside of normal science lessons? Anything else that the school organized for the young women who are growing up? Anything like that? Everyone is
Not
shaking
that
their
I
heads.
remember.
Not that you remember?
I think way back in primary school, we had we called it peer education, yes. There was that session where you guys come together, and then we used to do the thing, nime chill.
Right.
So,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Because
Started
I feel
early.
like that was more of a national program at that time. I
Yes.
remember that
Yeah.
campaign. Okay. And what was the teaching, if you can remember at all?
Abstinence.
There we go. And that's our reality. For so many of us, there's such a hard emphasis on abstinence, and then there's no education beyond that. And we're not saying that abstaining is wrong. In fact, for those who want to abstain, that's fantastic. But everybody needs more information, because if you're making a different decision, or when you feel the time is right, because sometimes it's in marriage as well. You get married and you have no idea what to do next. So we still keep campaigning that it's important to have these conversations and have schools participating as well, having parents empowering teachers to teach the students, because again, if there's resistance from home, or there's no conversation from home, and yet the conversations should have started when you're very young, then it's difficult to integrate moving forward. You've talked a little bit about campus. What was your experience with your peers? What information did the vast majority have?
So it was kind of crazy. People had all these ideas regarding contraceptives, that when you take, you might get fat, you might get thin. You know, I was really scared. But the good thing is I still had the tiny knowledge that I got from my cousin in the CSE education, yeah. So after that is when I decided to learn more about it by visiting a practitioner now.
Okay. For in terms of being a young adult, any conversations that you may have had around contraceptives, around protected sex at all with your peers? And if so, and this is to both of you, were there any myths that stood out? You've mentioned weight. Were there any myths that stood out to you in the conversations you were having with your peers?
What I heard is that these contraceptives, they make changes in your body. So like what she said here, sometimes you get fat, you feel like vomiting, sometimes you feel restless, like a lot of like changes in your body. And then the fact that maybe you can forget to use them. A lot of myths. So
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your experience as well?
I believe mine that was a bit scary was in terms of fertility.
Okay.
So where people were saying that if you continue taking these pills maybe, or the contraceptives, the end game, if you want to get a baby, it might be a problem, but I came to know that's not it.
So you were told that it will interfere.
It might interfere with, you know, the
Okay.
chances of me getting a baby in the future when I want to get married.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said now we keep moving. You finally had a point in your life where you decided, I don't want to have a baby right now, or maybe I want to space between a baby, that kind of conversation. When you finally decided, okay, maybe I want to know more about contraceptives, where did you go? Where did you have these conversations?
For me, I did go to a doctor. It's a local hospital. So I went ahead to see a doctor because, as she said, I was afraid because I used to use contraceptives a lot.
Okay.
So I was afraid, what if I don't get pregnant? Because I had tried with my man for a long time, and I wasn't getting pregnant. So he was even telling me that maybe I'm infertile or something.
Let me just take you back a little bit. You mentioned you had already been using contraceptives.
Yes.
What type of contraception were you using?
I was using pills.
The emergency pill?
Yes.
Okay. Was this ever with a doctor, or is it just getting someone telling you this is what you should be on, getting from a chemist? What was your access?
Yes, I used to get it from the chemist.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So then, as you were using, so after when you're trying to conceive, that's where you started interacting with the doctors?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I was afraid.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was thinking maybe the meds I was getting at school about taking a lot of pills, you can't get pregnant. I thought they were true. So finally, I talked to a doctor, and after some sessions, I got pregnant.
Okay.
And got a baby.
Okay.
But after, I still went on with the contraceptives.
Okay. So you were able to continue the conversation. Now, after baby, I want to space between my babies. Now I want a formal contraceptive method.
Yes.
Okay, I'll come back to that part. Maybe I can pick up from your experience. First interaction with a conversation with a professional about contraception. What was that like for you?
Quite scary, but I knew at that point I needed it because I remember the first time I used the emergency pills, the P2s, which I believe you're not supposed to use amactomy, a lot of them in an year, right? So I was very scared. So I decided, you know what, since I'm in a relationship during that time, and definitely going to be sexually active during that period of time, yeah? So I decided to visit a doctor at Mary Stops to just give me advice on the different types of contraceptives that we have on the market right now.
Okay.
And from there, I was able to choose something that works for me.
Okay.
Yes.
And did you feel that you were given enough information for you that first time and for you when you were now ready to use long-term contraception after baby? Did you feel like you were given adequate information to make a decision?
He did. He really did a good job.
Okay.
He explained every single thing, every single question that I asked, that gentleman answered.
Okay.
And when I left that place, I knew the kind of contraceptives I'll be using.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's fantastic. Yeah, kudos to my colleagues. What about you, Njambi?
Yes, I was advised very well because right now I have one kid and I'm on contraceptives and I'm not planning any soon to get a baby.
Okay.
So I guess whatever contraceptive I'm using is working.
Okay.
And I thank God for that.
Fantastic. Okay. The next part I want us to talk about is types of contraceptives. Just now, hapa ni challenge, question answer. Basically, what types of contraceptive methods do you know about? Maybe if you can just list from the top of your head what you've heard about that's available here in Kenya.
Okay.
Either of you. So I start with Wangui then?
Okay. So I know I've heard about the implants, the ones that they put under the mkono. Yes. So I've heard about the implants and the pills, the oral pills that you take during a period of time.
Okay. Any other form of contraception?
The IUDs. What else? Let me see.
Njambi, feel free to add in anything that comes to mind. This is where I become a teacher.
The condoms.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I believe we have the female right now, right? The female condoms.
Male and female condoms. That's
very
true.
You said I love them.
Nothing else comes to mind? You guys look like you're thinking so hard.
Aside from the emergency pills, kuna hizo pills zingine, the ones I'm saying
the
normally
pill,
take.
Yeah.
And then we have the medical ones, the tubal injection. Oh, the injections,
the injections
too.
as well.
Oh, yeah.
Before we get to the permanent ones.
Okay.
Yeah. Then there's the injectables. And then we have now what you're talking about, the tying the tubes, tubal ligation, or a vasectomy for the men, right? Are any of these, if you're comfortable sharing, what method are you on? And if you're not comfortable sharing, how did you arrive at the decision?
For me, I'm using oral contraceptives. That's for me.
That's the pills?
Yeah, the pills. And I guess they're working for me because at first I used to get these, like, I feel like vomiting and everything.
The nausea that comes, yeah.
Yeah, and then I lost appetite and everything. I gained weight a little bit. But with time, I guess that was for around 2 weeks or a month. And then it was off.
Okay.
So I can't complain about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I make sure I never forget.
You never forget to
because
take.
if I don't take them, I'll definitely get pregnant.
Right. Did you have, like, how did you decide I'm happy with the pill and not any other of these forms of contraception?
I actually thought that by myself because I went to the doctor, he gave me options, and I thought to myself, he was advising for this, what do we call it? Coil. He was advising for that. So I was like, what if it doesn't work for me? Because sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was afraid, and I took the advice and tried the oral contraceptives, and they are working for me.
Okay.
So I'm okay with them.
Fantastic. Okay. What about you, Wangui?
I decided to use the oral pills after the consultation with the practitioner. For me, I hate needles. So the injections, the implants, the IUD could absolutely not work for me because I'm really scared. I'm really scared. I cannot do that. So I just asked him if I can go ahead and try the pills. I tried them. They worked for me really good. And the thing that I liked about the pills is that they gave me the freedom in that if I do not want to take them anymore, I can just stop taking them. Yeah?
Okay.
So they worked for me.
Okay. The general teaching tends to be that contraception, first of all, is wrong on its own. But even if you had to use it, you should be married. You should be in a relationship, long-term married relationship. Have you faced any stigma about being on contraception and being open about being on contraceptives? Because I imagine you talk freely, right? From what I'm seeing right now, you talk freely about being on a contraceptive. I don't sense any shame around it from you both. I don't sense any like reservation or fear. You seem confident in the decision that you made. But out there where people don't have as much information, do you feel like you're stigmatized in any way, especially as a single young woman in Kenya choosing to be on contraception?
Actually, yes. Because like my ex-boyfriend, he never liked them.
Okay.
So I actually had to lie, I'm not using them.
Right. Did he have a specific reason why he didn't like them?
He didn't. He just said like, if you get pregnant, I'll take care of the baby. So
Okay.
there was no reason to make me not use them.
Okay.
He's never comfortable with them. And maybe he was saying like, maybe you cannot feel me, maybe because you're using them. Maybe they make you not feel a man.
Okay.
Of which that's not true.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just a misconception.
Okay. That's actually a very good point because partners sometimes will have a role. Of course, they'll have a say or at least help you with the decision. But what happens when they're against it and you are for it? Because you know it gives you that flexibility and that freedom. I like that you were able to navigate that scenario. What about you, Wangui?
I think I've had a smooth ride for myself. Knowledge is power. When you're educated and you know about some of these things or concept, even if your friend is not or is against them, just give them the facts and they're like, okay, now I see your point. So for me, it's been a smooth ride.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Fantastic. So then I feel like you're the best placed to give some advice to any young single women out there when it comes to contraception. Do you have anything that you wish when you were younger, your big sister or somebody who has had the experience could have shared with you? Because again, we can't take it for granted that we're on a platform where the youth and the younger women will be watching and they're looking to see how best to make a decision for themselves. And maybe all they've ever had is the myths and the scary things about contraception. And also the notion that you should not be thinking about contraceptives at all, you should be abstaining. But then here we are saying you should have information. What advice would you have for them? Who do I start with?
For me, I'll just say don't be scared.
Okay.
Go and visit that doctor. Get all the facts that you need to know about contraceptives. This is your body. You need to be cautious. Or if you're following your dreams, you need to know what you want. So what is best for you, you go for it. Yeah.
Okay. What about you?
As for me, like, I got pregnant at an early age. So if I was advised earlier, maybe by now I won't be having a kid, or maybe. But I don't regret so much because a baby is normally a blessing. But if I did, maybe by now my career would be somewhere else. But I had to stop my career and deal with the kid. But out there, youths, if you're listening to me, you should try these things. They're not myths, they're not stories, they do work.
Okay.
Yeah, you should not just abstain.
Okay.
If you want to,
Maybe we'll say abstain if you choose to.
but
But
not
if
a
not,
must.
it's not.
not a
Yeah.
must.
If not, there's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
empowering yourself to
true.
make whatever decision whatever you decide to do. Right.
True.
This one is an interesting question because, again, I can't sit here and talk about contraception with young women, especially in Nairobi, and not address some of the things that are said about us, right? What are your thoughts when you hear the statement that young women going on contraceptive will make them promiscuous, it will make them sleep around and be accessible to everyone because now you're on a umeamua utaki watoto. What would you say to that statement?
We are allowed to be selfish. Be selfish.
Right.
Be selfish.
Until you're ready.
Yeah,
right?
until you're ready.
Yeah.
Build that career. Go for that job that you want. Until you're ready to, get pregnant and settle down. You do what is good for you.
Right.
Yes.
That's such an empowering thing to say. Anything from you?
Actually, I back up what she said.
Yeah.
Just be selfish. 'Cause
If the time isn't right, it's not right.
yeah, if
Okay.
it's the right man, then go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me personally, I don't think we need to supervise or monitor and, try and control women's bodies. I feel like what's right for me will not be right for someone else. There's nothing wrong with talking about abstaining. It's one of the methods of keeping yourself safe until you feel ready. There's nothing wrong that if you choose that I'm ready to be sexually active, I can choose that I can be on a contraceptive, I can use protection, use condoms to keep myself safe, because it's not just pregnancy. There's also sexually transmitted infections.
Yes.
And there's HIV as well. So I don't think it's right to try and control anybody's body per se. I don't think it's right to think, I actually think it's wrong to think that an empowered woman is going to be a promiscuous woman. I don't know what that's about. Like self-control, we have self-control, right? And I feel like that's a complete non-issue, but it's important that we address it because that's what's being said. Kwa ground. Right, okay, so I'm going to say thank you very much for joining me for this segment. This is a 2-part episode, which is fantastic because then we hear more opinions from other young women who have a slightly different experience with contraception. So please stay tuned. We'll have a little short break and then come back in for part 2. So let's take a little break from the conversation we've been having to talk about the reason why we were having this episode in the first place. One of my most frequently asked questions tends to revolve around contraception or family planning methods, how women can make decisions in terms of what contraception to use, what is available on the market, and pretty much what would work best for you at an individual level. And the reason why we're having today's conversation is to start off by demystifying and destigmatizing the conversation around contraception. And it's for this reason I thought it's important to host some amazing young people to share their stories so that you can start to see a similarity with your own, a similarity with what you're going through in your own lifestyle. And the best part about this is I have a partner for this episode who have chosen to stand with us and power the conversation. DKT International is a company that prides themselves in effective and quality products and specifically have sent us support through their brand Lydia Contraceptives. These are methods available from all forms. They cover every form of contraception available on the market. We're talking about pills, injectables, implants, IUCDs. We have pretty much every option available to us on the market through their brand. The important thing, especially, that I think they pride themselves in the most is allowing women to go about their daily lives with freedom, with ease, with empowerment, because you're able to make decisions around your bodies. So as a sponsor of this episode, they felt it necessary for us to have unbiased conversations, and therefore you feel empowered to go into your nearest health facility and request for services to do with contraception, to do with controlling when you feel ready and able to have children. Thank you for joining us on this episode, and I send us back off to part 2. Welcome back for the second part of this amazing conversation that we're having today around contraceptives. Instead of being preachy about it, I'm getting the lived experiences and opinions of young women who have opted to share their stories and their journeys when it comes to using contraceptives or making the decision to use or not to use a contraceptive method. For part 2, I have 2 more guests on set. It's fantastic to have like such a big grouping of women for one episode, because I feel like we'll get so much insight for so many different experiences. And so I'll turn to my guests and ask them to introduce themselves, and I'll start with my very far right.
Hi, my name is Maandy. I'm a recording and performing artist and just a young girl living in Nairobi.
There we go. And I think anyone who's watching already is locked in and spotted,
Yeah.
and they know who you are.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And my other guest here?
My name's Winfred Mutinda. I'm a mother of 3 kids, and my career nafanya kazi ya soko.
Fantastic. Wewe kwanza nachukua namba yako. Niko nafanya direct delivery. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you, ladies. This is such a, it's still a taboo topic. It's still a sensitive topic. And in 2023, I don't understand why. And I just want to get your perspectives when it comes to your reproductive health, sexual health, and again, we're always talking about the related mental health to those issues, because there is a mental health, because some of these topics are so stigmatized. So maybe for you, Maandy, you can give me a bit of background. When did you first have conversations around your body, about the changes that were coming with puberty, about your ability to conceive and bring life into the world? When did you have that conversation, and with who?
I think I've had that conversation twice in my life. The first time I had it with my mom, and the second time I had it with a cousin of mine who now went into the details of everything.
Okay.
And I think that was around when I was now joining high school in Form 1. Yeah.
Okay. When your period first came, did you feel like you had enough information around it, or did it shock you and surprise you?
Of course, it shocked me. It's not something you usually expect.
Yeah.
But I was ready.
Okay.
By then, I was very ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Winnie, what was your experience growing up?
Experience when I was growing up, I was in class 8. That's when I started seeing changes in my body, but I just had it with my teachers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your parents didn't talk about
No.
hii mwili kutafanyika hivi.
No, they
you see
didn't talk
this.
anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I
That
had it
was
with the teachers.
class 8 was the
Class
first time.
8, yeah.
Okay. And what did the teachers talk to you about?
Walituambia tukuzo mwili venye ina change na venye unaweza get pregnant. Hizo tu.
Okay. Na period ikikuja?
Periods, they only told us how we could protect ourselves.
Okay. So what to use,
What to
wear.
use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. At least there was some information.
Yeah, there was some information.
Okay. When was the first time anybody talked to you about contraceptive?
Well, that was when I had my first born.
The first time you heard about family planning ni after
Family
first
planning
born.
after my first born.
Yeah.
Yeah, hiyo ingine nile tulikuwa tunaambiwa about to abstain. When you get into a relationship with boy, what will happen? Yeah.
And was it positive? What will happen with that boy? Was it
Me, I
positive?
try it when I get married.
Okay. Okay. Because the question always is, you don't want to talk about it until we get married. But once I'm married, I'm supposed to magically know what happens and what to do. Did you feel prepared for marriage when it came?
Yeah, I felt.
Okay. What did you have someone to talk to ama ni ile ya kujifunza huku?
When I was married?
No, in terms of now I'm getting married and I might have children and I'm going to be ready for it. Did you have any of that information?
Even I didn't have any of that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you find that you were pregnant? Because now I'm curious. Now I really want to know.
You know what happens after you get married.
Yeah. So how did you find out now I'm pregnant? What was your first experience with the pregnancy?
First experience? As in?
The pregnancy. Sasa ukipata mimba, ulijua aje ndio ujue? Because again, kama hujapewa hiyo information.
Oh, the information I had, because we had it at school. Yeah, you could, teachers could tell you what some changes that you will have after you get pregnant. Yeah.
Okay, so you at least were aware.
Yeah, I was aware.
Okay, at least. And what about you, Maandy? What was your experience in terms of the first time you heard about contraception?
Yeah. I think it was after high school. Me and my friend, my best friend, I think we walked this contraception journey with her, and we were basically just Googling. I think my generation is just Google tuone wanasema nini. So I think all the information I got was after I finished high school. And for us, it was just, okay, how can we not get pregnant now? How can we safeguard our futures? That's where now the research started.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there any guidance or it's pure Google?
Google. I wish there was a fancy way to say it, but it was just Google.
It was just Google.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because the concern for us, especially us in healthcare, is Google is available, but bado ni kitu ya tao, you know? We don't have it in the rural settings. We don't have it in the more impoverished settings, even in the cities. So if you don't have access to the internet, where are you going to hear or learn about your body and the changes that are coming? Contraception. And then again, we have schools, yes, but a lot of schools are affiliated with Christianity and the church.
And abstinence.
And contraceptives are bad. So in that scenario, what happens? How many lives have been changed because we don't have that information? Which is why we have conversations like this ongoing, just so that we can start to ask, why is the system the way it is? So then with your first, after Googling, let me pick up from there, because Google ndio ilisaidia. How did you end up deciding what contraceptive was right for you?
For me, it was my career highly determined that, because I wanted something I could get done with like reassurance, and I forget about it and I just move on with other things. And I couldn't do the daily thing because I travel a lot. I'm very forgetful. Even with 100 reminders, I'll still forget. So I wanted a very long-term solution and something I won't have to keep on going back to check on.
Okay. The other thing we have as standard in the country is the idea that contraception is only, if at all you're told about contraception, it's only for women who are married or women who are in long-term relationships. Winnie, is that, what was your experience? Sasa umeolewa? Kona mtoto wa kwanza, because that's the first experience.
That was the first experience.
What was your first conversation now after that about contraception?
Now, after I got my firstborn, now after those 6 weeks is when I went back to the clinic. There was advised the contraceptives that I was to use. I was given the e-pills.
Okay. The pill, the daily
pills,
pill.
the pills. But nikazitumia kama 2 weeks. Zilinishinda.
Okay.
Because I could feel like I'm throwing up. So mi nikazieka kwa maji, kazipeleka kwa choo.
Kasema staki hizo.
And I just said like I didn't use any other method.
Okay.
That's when I realized again I'm pregnant.
Number 1 and now number 2.
Number 2, yeah.
Okay. So when did you ever start to use contraceptives at all? Ulipata ile method inakusaidia?
Yeah, nilipata after sasa kimeniramba.
After second born.
Yeah, after second born. Yeah. Yeah.
So uliamua aje sasa ni gani utatumia?
So I went back to the clinic again. Nikaekwa hii implant ya 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Na hiyo imekusaidia? Do you feel like it has any issues with it?
Yeah, for the first time ilinisaidia. Juu now the second born nimeitumia for like 5 years. Sasa ndio nikakuja kupata my third born.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So at least umeitumia to now space. Kukuwa na enough space between.
Yeah.
How many years is there between first and second born?
First and
Miaka
no
ngapi?
years.
There's no years.
Just months.
Months between them. Okay, so the ones we call Irish twins. I know. But imagine, it's the reality on the ground, right? There's so many women who will tell you,
Yeah.
after I got married, I didn't know anything or how to choose when to have babies. The first born came, the second born came, the third born came. What do we do, right?
Ujikune mahali.
So uliona hapa circumstances.
Tumekuwa kubaya.
So do you feel like being on a contraceptive empowered you to make that decision when you are ready now for the third born?
Yeah.
Okay, that's such a beautiful story at the end of the day.
It's funny and beautiful.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And the funny part is for me is how relatable it is because again, I'm a practicing gynae. So in my day-to-day living and work, this is the normal experience. Daktari, first born, second born. Nikaona we. Acha nitafute daktari. Alafu they tell me na mimi nikakuona online. So acha niende nichukue something to stop this from happening. So at least finally you were able to find something that works for you.
I'm able to find,
Yeah. So are you still on a contraceptive now? If you're comfortable sharing, of course.
Now after I get in my third born, nikarudisha tena bado hiyo ya implant. Sasa ikaniletea shida.
Okay.
Now I'm not in any contraceptive.
Now we are waiting.
Now we are abstaining.
We're back to square one. Okay, but it's understandable again because you just need to go back and look at what other options are available when you feel ready. Because again, it's about making a decision. And that's what I feel like is empowering about deciding whether to use or not to use a contraceptive. No one is saying it is right, it is wrong. Is it right for me? Is it right or not right for me? Is it right for me at this point in my life versus later in life? So that's all. That's the story we are trying to advocate. We're not trying to tell anyone everyone should do.
Yeah.
Everyone should do. But we also don't want anyone to say, no, this is absolutely right, this is absolutely wrong. For you, Maandy, when it comes to that story around only women who are married should have access, or if you're in a long-term committed relationship is when you should have access to contraception. What's your opinion or what has been your experience with that?
For me, I think it's a bit absurd because this is a woman in her body first, outside of everyone else she's around, whether it's a relationship, whether she's liberated.
Yeah.
It starts with her first, and people look at it from a control perspective instead of this is a decision she's making for herself and her future. And even for her kids, you might not be able to accommodate a kid now, but 3 years later you can, and you make that decision. Like the underlying thing here is it's a decision. It's not about control. So I think it's unnecessary. Yeah, women should be able to do whatever they want. It's 2023.
It's 2023, right? Yeah, because we can't be making decisions based off of someone else.
Yeah.
If the decision is right for me, I should be able to make that decision. If I'm in a relationship, my partner should also weigh in on that decision.
Yeah.
It's not that I have to wait to be told.
They're there for a second perspective, like, should I do braids or should I do locks? You get like that kind of, it's not you go get locks because I want locks. Whatever decision you make, then you consult. Okay. It's not the other way around.
Okay, I like that opinion. Winnie, your husband, has he played any role? Decide nitatumia ama sitatumia. Does he have any information about contraception? Does he understand what family planning is? Have you had conversations with him at all around them?
Actually, we went to the clinic together.
That's fantastic.
And we decided together.
Okay. Fantastic. Let me tell you, this is such a beautiful story. This is so fantastic because, again, men are not taught to participate in the decision. They're actually The only time, again, I'm going to speak from experience, that we see men in our clinic for the majority of the time is during the pregnancy.
Yeah.
So a partner will accompany the wife or the partner during the pregnancy. Before, uko solo.
Uko peke yako.
After, hiyo ni maneno
Peke
yako
yako.
sasa. Maneno ya wanawake si yetu. And when we have a conversation like that, it's very unfortunate because it should be, again, if he's present, he should
Yeah.
have enough information to be able to weigh in and then support you. Because if he doesn't understand the contraception, he doesn't understand possible side effects, we ukiweka kwa maji utupe, atakuwa anakupiga, anafight. Sasa madam, we, si tulisema tunatumia hii. Mbona umekataa kuitumia? You know?
Yeah.
If he understands, okay, hii inafanya atapike, let's go back to the doctor and have a
Figure
conversation.
something out,
Let's find something else that could work better for us. So I think it's very empowering just to be able to talk openly about having contraceptives. In today's society, the young people and access to information online, do you feel like, especially since it's your actual lived experience, do you feel like you got accurate information about contraceptives, at least enough to help you make a decision? Or do you feel like it was confusing, there's both this and that, and then there's a lot of, because we also share a lot of our own experiences online.
Yeah.
What was your personal experience with having access?
My experience was, I think it was very helpful because I think now even like a lot of health centers have made the contraception like very, very accessible,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the Planned Parenthood thing. So I think on top of the research
Yeah.
that we did and also talking to different practitioners and seeing like comments and reviews and stuff like that, it really helped us make like a very solid decision.
Right.
It wasn't confusing, it wasn't scary, because sometimes they tell you these are the possible side effects of this. Sometimes it does this to other women, because I think women are different.
We're all
They
different,
react
exactly,
differently. Yeah.
exactly.
So I think it really helped. And right now, it's easier to make a decision. And I don't know if this is different from my generation, but also without shame.
That's true.
Yeah.
I feel like Gen Z, first of all. So millennials look at you guys and we're like, hey, these guys are the rebels of the rebels. But I also admire the boldness with which you guys approach even the topics that us guys were taught to
Yeah.
sit down and not talk about. Don't you ever have a conversation with your parent about your body, about the changes that are coming, or about relationships. Now that's even
Was.
uko na boyfriend.
Wanini?
Kwa nini? Can you read? You should be reading. You should be studying. You should not be thinking about boys.
Yeah.
And so I really admire the fact that you guys are more bold and you're able to have conversations. And even where it's still considered taboo, you force the conversation.
Yeah.
Because if there's something I have seen, honestly, even I'm still learning, because I'll meet Gen Z and be like, okay, I have been
No
schooled.
shame.
There's no shame here. So why are we still burying our heads in the sand? Because
Yeah.
the reality is, and I understand from the point of view of coming from that previous generation where we didn't have information, talking to our parents and our teachers and our people in our communities was impossible.
Yeah.
Not on these topics. And so, of course, if now that is who your parent is now, where would they have learned to have a conversation with you as their child?
True.
So I can't put any blame. I just feel like now we should end the narrative now.
Yeah.
Because the people we're saying we're protecting, the Gen Zs that we're saying we're protecting, have access to information. What we
Yeah.
need to do is guide that access,
Yeah.
so that you don't end up, because it's easy to get the wrong information and end up
And making the wrong decision.
the wrong decisions. Yeah. I'll just finally, like, as we wind down, maybe what advice would you have, having been a young girl once, na sasa umefika pahali uko, mom of 3?
Yeah.
What advice would you have for moms, for parents, including dads? Because I feel like maybe now we should not even be separating when it comes to talking about to their children about their bodies, their relationships, things like contraception, things like safe sex. What advice would you have for them?
I will urge all moms to talk to their children about contraceptives and how to take care of themselves, even when they grow up.
Okay. So you think it should be an open conversation in the
It
family?
should be open.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope mummies, daddies are listening. What about you, Maandy? What advice would you have? Just our community in general, looking at yourself as you make the decisions you're making towards maybe one day wanting to have children, what advice would you want to share with us, us old generation from the boomers onwards, to now also the young ones as you come into yourselves and you start to become parents, because some of you are now in that age frame of we're having children and we're raising families. What advice would you have when it comes to talking about contraceptives, but in general, sexual wellness, relationships, reproductive health, and related mental health?
I think they need to stop being taboo topics. It's a bit outdated and tired. I think we need to be open and honest, and also have no shame. Because where shame exists, bad decisions are made.
True.
You stay quiet, you do your thing, you mess so much. So I think we just need to get rid of it, and also make all this information accessible. I don't need to go on Google. I need to have had it at least throughout my whole life. So I think we need to make the information accessible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Given that, like we said, contraceptives have side effects, right? You've talked about some of the side effects you've experienced, Winnie. Do you still feel like you would opt for a contraceptive, or is it now it's a bad thing to have a side effect?
No,
I should never.
I'm still waiting to see a doctor who will lead me to a certain contraceptive that will help me.
That will work for you.
Because the one I was using, it changed.
Okay. Yeah. And that's not uncommon, because same woman can have two different experiences with the same contraceptive.
Yeah.
But should it really cloud the decision, because it's used as the reason not to be on a contraceptive, kuna side effects, it will stop you from having babies? Again, testimony that is not true. Si that boniko.
Kwanza alikuja haraka.
You guys, you're fertile. So you didn't feel like it stopped you from having your next baby?
It didn't.
Okay. Okay. Generally speaking, Maandy, what do you think about that? Those myths around fertility, about shaming people for making that decision, scaring women about making decisions to do with contraception?
I think women just need to be in charge of their own bodies, their own decisions. I think by the time you're talking about reproductive health and contraceptives, you're old enough, you understand what's going on and why you need to do it. So I think there needs to be, like, they just need to be allowed to do what they want. I get, hakuna haja nikuje nikwambie, shame on you for protecting your future and your kids. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So your stigma tu inafaa iishe. Just, we need to do away with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Final question, because boy child cannot be left out. Because yes, it is something that affects us directly as women, because it's something you're going to put into your body or use in your body.
Yeah.
But our partners, the men in our lives, the men we come from, our parents, our fathers, uncles, brothers, what do you think they should be taught? Because as it stands, I'm sure mnajua, unless uende na yeye clinic,
Yeah, haezi jua anything.
hatakuwa anajua. But what do you think they should learn about something like contraceptives? Yeah.
I think they also need to participate, because it affects them in one way or another. If you have a baby today, it will affect if they choose to stay, if they whatever. But it will affect. So pia wanafaa kuwa proactive and try to learn. And if you have a partner, if you say you care about them, it means you care about their health also.
True.
And it's something you are also involved in. So wanafaa waanze kulearn. So that they can be supportive. You know, even going on contraceptives is a very big decision.
True.
And if you have someone walking that journey with you, it just makes it a bit easier. Yeah.
True. Winnie,
Yes.
what do you think about sasa wazee, the men, the boy child? What should they know about contraceptives? Is it their business, or it's only us who should be concerned?
I can say it's their business and they should support their partner. If the mother is going for a contraceptive, akuwe pamoja na yeye. Waangalie njenye ita work vizuri na yeye.
Okay. I think I'm going to wind down the episode there. Maybe any final thoughts, anything that comes to you about the conversation we've had today. Give me a episode closer.
Personally, I think I've been inspired by her story and just how ilianza na
Trials and
drama.
errors.
Then there was a break in between.
Yeah.
I love that because inaonyesha at the end of the day you're still in charge and in control of whatever decisions una make.
Sure.
Na pia una safeguard watoto wako na unawasecure na una make sure by the time you're having a kid, we wanted you to be here.
Yeah.
You get?
Yeah.
And I just think it's important for this information to be available to everyone. Yeah.
Okay. Final shots, parting shot, Winnie.
Mi venye naweza sema next time when I go back to the clinic, so far that 1 year I've already used like 2 method na zimeniaribikia. Na suppose when I go back daktari ani recommend nitumie Lydia nione venye iko.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Sawa. So from me, the parting shot is information is power. I think that's what we're getting from our 2-part episode today. Information is power. Gatekeeping information is unnecessary in 2023. Because you can decide you're not going to give me information. I will sit with my gadget. Siku hizi, because my generation dial-up took forever and it was expensive. You would sit there and that thing does like this for hours. But now, you smartphone, simple. Cyber cafe, simple. And you have all the right as well as the wrong information. So my message to the audience today, just summing up what my guests have said, is the more information, the better. Whatever your decision, please feel free and empowered enough to make the right decision for yourself based on accurate information. And I think I'll leave that there. I will be including all the information to do with my guests today. I'm so grateful for you guys being here. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I will include handles, social media handles, and ways in which you can reach out. Again, as always, put in your comments in the comment section. Send those DMs because some people are still shy. And we will see how to continue the conversation online away from the podcast as well, just so that it gets to trickle down to those as far as possible who need this information. Thank you so much for staying on to the end of the episode, and I really do look forward to seeing you again next week.